So let's continue the videos that I was doing yesterday, talking a little bit about what you should expect for some of the aircraft that got leaked. We talked about the Eurofighter, we talked about the Rafale. Now we're gonna talk about some interesting Chinese aircraft in this video, the J-10B and the J-11B. What should you expect from both new versions of these aircraft, right? So first, the J-10B. What is it? Well, it is an upgrade or an evolution to the J-10A that we have already in the game. They introduced many changes. I think the major one externally will be that it features a lighter and stealthier divertless supersonic inlet. How it works is basically they use the shape of the inlet itself to make it be able for the air to slow down from supersonic to subsonic inside the engine intake, so that it doesn't need to use the flaps and some other features that normal aircraft before would use to do that same thing, right? So it's a very modern thing, and as I said, it is lighter because it has less pieces and moving parts and stuff, and of course it is stealthier because it is actually controlling a lot of the basically the design itself is made to be less vulnerable to, like, the moving parts and stuff for the inlet itself will not appear so much on the radar and stuff. So technically it is stealthier because of that, and because it hides, I think, a little bit more of the compressor blades or something like that. It's anyway, it is stealthier. Okay, it has a longer nose radome, possibly housing an active electronic scanning array radar. And here we have to talk a little bit about controversy, right? Because the majority of the sources that we have say that the J-10B actually uses a PESA, but it's kind of weird because they say that the PESA wasn't good enough. It was already way better than the original radars from the J-10A, but the PESA evolution wasn't good enough for the Chinese, and they were already developing an IASA by that time, so they just jumped straight to the IASA. So I couldn't confirm 100% if the J-10B uses a PESA or an IASA, right? Some people claim it's a PESA, some people claim it's only initially that the PESA was there, and then afterwards it was the IASA, and then they started to produce the C variant with the IASA already, right? And there wasn't a lot of numbers of the B or something like that. So I'm not gonna say it's like one or the other, just know that it's going to be an electronic scanner array radar, and it will be way better than the J-10A. It will be similar to the Su-34 radar in some regards, okay? Of course, it has an IRST as well. It's another cue that you can see from outside the aircraft, which helps a lot for you to identify that it's a B or a C, right? And it has a new and better RWR and ECM, and of course a new engine, the AL31FN M1. Very similar engine to the Su-34, so more thrust than the original engines from the J-10A, which is pretty good as well. So overall, it has a better radar, a better engine, a better intake, and, you know, in general, a better performance, an IRST to be the cherry on top. So small upgrades here and there, it's nothing too big, but it will make the aircraft that was already kind of one of the best aircraft in the game become even better, you know. The weapons that it would use would probably be the same as the J-10A, but hopefully they add more things, like, for example, the PL-8B. I think it's kind of nuts that we have the J-10A in top tier with the PL-5E2 and the normal PL-8. Why not add the PL-8B, right? I don't think it's gonna be that OP. Remember, the PL-8B is a PL-8, a normal Python 3, but with IRCCMs, right? So it would mean that the missile would have the performance of the Python, but with the IRCCM, which is something that it would help a lot, right? So a very small upgrade, and that's why I wanted to include in the same video to the J-11B. So what is the J-11B? Well, it's basically a domesticalization upgrade to the J-11A. Okay, the objective was to use as much domestic build stuff as possible, so Chinese build stuff. Even if it was copied or not, the objective was to use their own engines, their own radars, everything inside the aircraft, and produce the aircraft without the help of the Russians, right? So that was the main idea. I think there is basically two main changes between, you know, the things. The first one is that it uses the KLJ4, the Type 1474 radar, which is a domestic radar that can track 8 targets and engage 4 simultaneously. Initially, it wasn't a PESA or a ESA radar. There are upgrades to the J11 that later can be added with these types of electronic scan and array radars, but right now it would be just a normal radar, if I'm not mistaken. But just a very advanced one compared to the older J11A radar, for example. So that would be probably the main thing. Another thing is that it has a new engine, the WS10, right? An engine that will be very similar to the engine of the Su-34 as well, close to the performance of the L31FN M1, but with a tiny little bit 2 kilonewtons less. It's very, very slim, less power, you know, so it's very similar to the Russian engines, but it was built in China. So a new engine that is stronger than the engine of the J11A, right, which is pretty cool. Of course, it has everything that the J11 had as well, the MAWS, the Missile Approach Warning System, RWRs, advanced RWIs, RSTs, everything with that. The main change here for you would be that it would have a better radar and with that different missiles. So you can use the PL8 now, something that the J11A could not use. Of course, the PL8B, as I was talking about as well with IRCCM. Hopefully, if these aircraft are added, it will be added with that missile. And the PL-12 as well, the main, you know, Fox 3, initial Fox 3 missiles that the Chinese build themselves, right? In the future, of course, other upgrades can happen and stuff, but for this version, initially, it would be able to carry the PL-8 and PL-12, and of course, the Russian missiles as well, I would say, obviously, right? But still, this would be the main difference and the main thing that you would use this aircraft for, which can be very cool. I mean, imagine using the PL-12 together with an R-77, which is great for short ranges, the PL-12 for long ranges, and then the R-73, maybe a PL-8B to have a different kind of flavor to the IR missiles. It would be very, very cool, right? Another cool thing is that in its prototype phase, they tested a dual rack for the PL-12, just like the Su-27SM had with the R-77s, right? So technically, in theory, it can actually take 12 missiles with a mix of Chinese and Russian missiles, right? So a very interesting version, but it's a very small upgrade again, right? So both the aircraft, guys, are kind of small upgrades to existing aircraft. It will have a new engine, a new radar, a little bit of a difference outside the aircraft, but at the end of the day, they are pretty much the same. Top tier, of course, and they will have some interesting features here and there. The only thing that I need to talk about it here, remember that these are very reliable leaks, guys, but it is kind of weird that we are seeing two aircraft, such advanced aircraft like the J11B and the J10B leaked at the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised, since we already had, not a long time ago, a new squadron vehicle for the Chinese as the JF-17. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of these becoming the actual Tech 3 vehicle and the other one becoming something else, or maybe even one of them being added and the other one not being added. I just think it's a little bit unlikely that we will see these two aircraft being added, but at the same time, maybe it will be added because it's such an easy aircraft to add. I mean, the J11A for the B, it's very similar in model. The J10B to the B, it's very similar in model as well. Very easy to implement these two aircraft, and they're gonna be very, very similar in performance, with some minor changes here and there that will make them a little bit more effective in top tier. But yeah, guys, basically this is what you should expect from the J10 and the J11Bs. Both aircraft just being small upgrades to the existing aircraft in the game with different missiles and everything, but nothing too crazy, okay? Probably on par with, especially the J10B, on par with the Rafale and the Eurofighter. Maybe with the Eurofighter having more missiles and more performance, right? But yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about the J11 and J10B. I see you guys. Subscribe, like, comment. See you.